Hey everybody, as you can see, got the Nova in. Darren was talking about names for cars, and that's a subject I'm going to talk about that whole video. My car's name is Carabeth. I named that car after my sister that had passed away because I can't have no more kids, and this car is kind of like a kid to me. So my brother got to name his little boy after our brother that passed away, so I got to name my car. That's all I had. So I know in that video Darren was talking about cars having attitude, or I don't remember how he put it, but first I want to tell you guys the story of why I got this car. This was sorry, this was my dream car. The Nova, this body style right here, was my dream car, and always wanted one since I was a little kid. I had little plastic models, you know, just like everybody's done. Had a bunch of them of the Nova, and then didn't know my dad at the time. And then when I was probably 13, I got to meet my dad, my real dad, and he had a Nova. Had one in his garage, so I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so I got memories of that, sitting in that thing with him, eating all the Tootsie Rolls. Me and him both like Tootsie Rolls. It's crazy how somebody you've never met, and then you meet them and you find out how much you're like that person. A lot of little crazy quirks that makes me just like my dad. Like, always rub our feet, you know, at night when you're laying in bed or sitting in a recliner. I always rub my feet together. I found out he does that too. Drives my wife nuts too. But anyway, so years went by, I never got my car. I got all kinds of hot rods. I've had Mustangs, Camaros. I had a 65 Plymouth Valiant that I really didn't want to buy. And my grandpa is the one that called me on that. And I went up and looked at it, and it turned out this thing had 19,000 original miles on it. And this was back in '97. On my way home from buying it, it turned 20,000. I had to stop at the tire store because it had the original tires on it. When they changed them, it still had inner tubes in them. But never did get my car. And then I got married. And my wife, you know, being around me, she learned this was my dream car. So my wife had saved up some money, and one day told me that we need to go ahead and buy my Nova. So in the search for this car, I bet we looked at 10 different Novas at a minimum, and every one I looked at, you know, you just, it wasn't there. That wasn't my car. And I posted out an ad on Craigslist because I was looking on Craigslist, and then I noticed people were putting WTB, and I didn't know what that meant at first. And now I learned it was want to buy. So a friend suggested, you know, maybe I should put one at want to buy on Craigslist. So I put on there want to buy 68 through 72 Nova. I preferred the 68 because it was the first year of this body style, which it turns out I wish I had gotten. I wanted a different year, but that's the year I wanted. But I'm learning that 68, there's a lot of parts it's hard to get on 68 because there's a little bit difference from 68 to 69, like the dashes and things like that. Anyway, so I did that, and somebody contacted me and said they were selling this car. It was a really small car lot over in Missouri. So I contacted the guy, and we made an appointment to go look at it. And we went and looked at it, and I found out somebody had traded this car in so they can get a smaller car for driving back and forth to St. Louis because their daughter or something was in the hospital and they had to drive back and forth a lot. So they wanted a car that got better gas mileage, and this was the one laying around that they could get rid of. He was starting a restoration, I think to make it a race car, which was What was funny is he didn't cut up on it yet. What he did do was get the big, this got a big block 454 in it, and he did have it balanced and blueprinted, and I have all the papers on it. He, well, anyway, we struck a deal with this guy, and from all the other cars that I looked at, I stole this car. I drove this car home. Every other car, people wanted more than what I paid for this one. And half of them didn't have engines in them. Some of them didn't have interior paint, and they were all rusted out. This one was straight. There wasn't no rust on this car. But when we got there, this is how I knew automatically this car was mine. I mean, you can feel it. It was down the pit of my stomach. I felt this car was mine. As soon as we pulled up, my wife says, she says, "There it is." I said, "Yep, that's it. That's the one." So we struck a deal and we took the car home. It was meant to be. Then I started driving this car. I drove this car home and we found out this car was wired with speaker wire. So every single wire was replaced in this car. We put the paintless in it. This thing had manual brakes, and I don't know if anybody's ever tried to stop a car with manual brakes with a big block in it that's built like this. It was hard. Took both feet. So we switched it over to power disc brakes. And we did a lot of stuff on this car. I actually had an order come in on this car. I'll tell you about that one here in a minute. This car was a lot of work, and for me, this car is not just, it just doesn't have just attitude. This car is part of me. So whatever my attitude is, that's what this car's attitude is. An example, I ran out of gas one time in this car. Closest gas station was about 2 blocks away, and when this thing runs out of gas, it just runs out. It just, no warning. So the closest one was 2 miles away, or 2 blocks away, sorry. So I had to call my wife, come up and get me, and I did not like this gas station. I still don't like Quick Trip. But that was the closest one, so I had to go to Quick Trip because she brought me a gallon of gas, which would get me about 2 blocks. So went to Quick Trip, got gas. As much as I despise Quick Trip, just like the car knew. I went to start it, wouldn't start. Starter went out on it. God, gotta be kidding me. So I had to have it towed home from Quick Trip that night. And then another time I had to stop at Quick Trip. My daughter wanted a soda from Quick Trip. You know, she can mix all her own little sodas. So I went ahead and I pulled into Quick Trip. I was in this car. I ended up having to call my wife because the car wouldn't start at Quick Trip again. The starter had went out again. It actually turned a little bit and bent the bolts. But it seemed like every problem I had was always at some place I did not like and did not want to be. And it's like the car was sensitive. But I don't really care. It's just, you know. But anyway, this car, the attitude of this car is me. This car is part of me. And that's my story on this car. I was going to tell you another story and I forgot what it was. I should have just went ahead and said it. My coffee's starting to get cold. Anyway, everything in this car we replaced. We replaced the interior. I got seats out of a 95 Monte Carlo. So we have leather power seats in it. All custom gauges, autometer gauges in it. Everything's been reworked on the car. This car, I mean, you guys have all seen it. I know some of you haven't. I got a lot of new subscribers, which is one of the reasons I'm showing the car. This car was my debut to YouTube. It was building this car. I wanted to finish at the same time as Darren, but that didn't happen. One thing I was going to show Darren in this car, and I didn't get a chance to because it was always so cold. And a lot of you know, this car's got even more attitude because a lot of you know where this emblem here came from. It came off of Darren's 68 that Andrea had rolled and wrecked. I think it was on a racetrack, if I remember the story right, but this emblem came off of that, so kind of a piece of him in it too, I guess, kind of. But I want to show Aaron the brakes on this. I know you were wanting to go with the manual disc brakes, Aaron, but I'll tell you right now, you're going to hate it the first time you go to hit the brake. This motor's probably dirty. I just washed the car. So, yeah, I've never spoken. Let me show you that booster. I have plenty of room as far as clearance, but I'll show you the one thing. Is my light on? Yeah. One thing I did have problem. I mean, I'm awful close. The only thing is, every time I want to take this off, this valve cover off, which isn't too very often, I have to actually take the bolts out of this and just kind of turn it this way a little bit. It'll lay real easy, and then they'll come off. This will come off real easy. But yeah, they fit perfect, and I tell you what, it was night and day with brakes on this car. I'll show some of you what I was talking about. Hey, there's my new tires that I got to get on here. Some of you haven't seen this. Here's the custom odometer gauges, steering wheel. That there is custom fiberglass down there, and I got my 12-volt plug-in in it. Always keep a fire extinguisher handy. In the trunk, I got a fuel cell. All the new door panels, it's got the correct SS ones on it, front and back. These seats I love. They're power seats, and the back seat actually will focus. That will fold down, so my daughter has a little armrest. Put this back on now. But anyway, that's my story on my car, and why my car means so much to me. We'll just leave that open. I gotta a lot of things we did in here. I custom made a plate in the back, which I guess I could show you guys that. Here, why don't I show you that? I wanted to get rid of my heater at the time. Now I wish I wouldn't have, so I had to drive it a few times this winter due to my truck. Custom made that right there out of that was actually a workbench top. It was a piece of aluminum. This thing's got an electric fuel pump, Holley fuel pump, blue pump, so I had to have my regulator here. There's my main source for the painless. Oh man, my thing fell off. I gotta put that back in. This right here, this is an interesting story right here. Take a good look at that. And I'm going to tell you a story on that piece right there. You might have to rewind and look again. That piece right there, I actually pulled it in the garage one day, and after a car cruise, because I don't do car shows, I hate car shows. This is a driver car. My car don't get judged. I don't do them. I do car cruises, that's it. But I pulled in the garage one day, and the car had puked, you know, because it had no overflow tank. So it puked all over, so I got a book out, because I got tired of doing that. Got a book out, and looked at the prices of them. I thought, damn, those things are expensive. Couldn't afford one at the time. So what I did was I found a stainless coffee mug. Excuse me. Sitting on the steps over there. So I took that stainless coffee cup, and that's what that is. I cut the handle off of it. I custom made a bracket to hold it, and now it's my overflow tank, and it works perfect how I rigged it all up. It works so good that somebody had seen it and I ended up making one for this guy too, and now somebody's seen his and they want me to make one for him too. So that was pretty cool. But oh, the story I was going to tell. So it was a winter, and I knew I was going to be doing all the mechanical things on this car one winter. And this is the story I forgot that I was going to tell. I was going to do all the mechanical things this one winter, and I bought all my stuff from Classic Industries. And they had this thing where you can get 20% off and free shipping. I thought, well, that's a good deal. So I figured up how much everything I was going to need for that winter and that spring to work on this car. And that would be all the wiring, chrome trim, carpet, everything. So the brakes, you know, polyurethane bushings, everything. So went ahead and ordered it all. And there was a lot. You wouldn't imagine how much there was. So I was going to be at work. At the time I was a car salesman. I used to sell cars for a Chevrolet dealership. So my hours were really long. So I talked to my neighbor, which has passed since. He was an older gentleman, really super nice. My daughter, you know, they were buddies. But I told him, I said, hey, when the UPS guy gets here, do you think you can open my garage door and let him in to empty out the truck? Well, he said, yeah, not a problem. So apparently the UPS guy showed. He opened up the garage for him. They unloaded a couple packages. He says, is that about it? UPS guy says, nope, not yet. A few more packages, and he says, is that about it? UPS guy says, nope, not yet. And I guess this went on 3 or 4 times. And then finally the last time he asked the UPS guy, he says, is that about it? UPS guy says, he says, let me ask you what? He says, are you here to let us in the garage? Can you got to close it up? And the guy said, and you know, Mr. King says, he said, yeah. So guy reached in, he grabbed one of my folding chairs, set it down in the driveway, and he says, you might as well have a seat then. I thought that was really funny. They pretty much kind of dedicated a trailer, you know, them little trailers they put on the back of their trucks. Dedicated one of those trailers to my load. But I had everything, and I saved a lot of money. I saved like $2,500, and we got a lot of stuff. I won't even say how much money we spent, but we had a separate checking account set up for this car because I was actually taking money out of our regular checking account, and then my wife would go to pay bills, and you know, where's this money? So she called me one day. She says, you need to come down to the bank and sign off on this. I set up a checking account for the Nova. And she loaded a bunch of money in it, so good wife. You know, don't always get along, but all in all, she is a good woman, and I do love her. So I think that's about all I got. But just wanted to touch on that my car has attitude, and I bet, Darren, you'll find one day yours does. I don't know. Your race car is kind of your thing. So, you know, that bug will have the attitude. Your Nova probably won't. But mine does. Mine has all of it. Like I said, that car's, it's me. It's part of me. It's my baby. My second child. So on video, if you guys ever hear me say Carabeth, you know that's what I'm talking about right there. But anyway, that's all I got for now. I will talk to you guys later. Peace, ciao, all that good stuff. Don't forget to eat your vegetables. I'm trying to figure out where. Okay, yeah, here we go. All right, yeah. Ciao, peace.